everybody, it's Patty, and I'm here to talk to you today about what I read in June. I've just got 4 things here, and one of them's pretty slim, as you can see. But anyway, they were all pretty good reads, and I don't know if I'm going to go any particular order here. I guess I'll start with this one because this was the first book that I read in June. Frontier by Grace Curtis. And this is Grace Curtis's first book. She's from the UK, and this is a UK publication. I got this book from Broken Binding. As you may remember, if you've seen my unboxing video from May, this was in that box. And it's a sci-fi western. I chose to read it in June because it's a LGBTQ love story also, although that's not really, I was going to say it's not really the focus of the book, but the main character is on a mission to find her loved one. And she's crash landed her spaceship on Earth. Earth has kind of become this dystopian place that's run similarly to the Wild West, with sheriffs and sheriff deputies who wield a lot of power and can sometimes be corrupt and relentless in their pursuit for who they perceive the bad guy to be. And in this case, the main character who is on her quest, or her mission, I should say, is perceived to be the bad guy by this deputy sheriff because she's from off the planet. And Earth has become this place where the Earth itself is the deity, is the god of their religion, and to seek to escape, to go up into space, or to come from space, is in contravention of their religion on the planet. So it was a good book, an interesting book. I really liked a lot of the characters in the book, but I will warn you if you're interested in reading this. And this was a warning that I got from reading some of the Goodreads reviews, that there's a pretty high body count in this book, so don't get too attached to a lot of the characters that you meet along the way. And I think that's just kind of true maybe about Westerns. I haven't read a lot of Westerns or watched a lot of Western movies, but I know that there's kind of everything's solved with a gun battle, it seems like, is my perception of a Western. And that's kind of the case here. Not everybody dies, don't get that idea, but there is a high body count. But nonetheless, it was a good book. I gave it 3 stars out of 5 on Goodreads, and 3 stars is a good review from me. That doesn't mean I didn't like it. It means that I thought it was a pretty good read. It's not a DNF type book for me. I enjoyed it, and I do recommend it. So, Frontier by Grace Curtis. And then another book that I read, also, this is a slim volume, but, and I took notes on little Post-its here when I was reading it. Rose House by Arkady Martine. And this book was published by Subterranean Press. And it's now sold out on the Subterranean Press website, but it is available as an ebook option for like $5. So it is still available to read. You just can't get the hardback copy of it right now unless you go to the secondary market. But it's a sci-fi novella, and it's about a house that is an AI entity in and of itself. The house is AI. And one of the reviewers said something like, it's like Haunting of Hill House, but the house is made by Frank Gehry, which I thought was a pretty good description. The book reminded me also of that movie that was on Netflix. It's still on Netflix, called Ex Machina, where there's a house, a beautiful house in the middle of the woods, and the architect has invited this guy there, and there are these AI androids there, and it just, things about this book reminded me of that movie, if you've ever seen that movie. Another reviewer likened it to Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Kind of that, it's got this feeling of a liminal space. It is a liminal space, the house is, in a lot of ways. It's, the architect has died, and he was kind of a highly revered architect, kind of there's kind of a cult of personality thing there. And everyone wants into this house because all of his archives are there, his plans are there for other buildings, and his body is there, and he's had his body turned into all the carbon molecules compressed at a high temperature and a high amount of pressure, and his body has been turned into a diamond, and it resides within the house with this AI entity. The only person who has access to the house is one of his former students named Celine. And so the story starts where Celine is in a totally different country, different continent even. She's trying to escape this obligation she has to be the keeper of this house. And she's only allowed to be in the house for 1 week out of the year, and she's the only person allowed in the house. She feels like this is a burden that has been placed upon her because she had rejected her former teacher, thought he was a monster, and really denounced him, didn't want anything to do with him, but he has put this burden upon her. So the story starts, and she is on a completely different continent, as I said, and the phone rings, and it is the police department of where this house is located. I think it was Nevada. It was out in the desert. But anyway, the house has reported a dead body. There is a dead body in the house that is not the architect, and it's obviously not Celine because she's receiving this call. So it's kind of a mystery of what happened here. And so it requires her to return back to the United States and help solve this mystery. One of the themes, the big themes in this book, I think, is about personal agency and how others can try to strip that away from us, as has happened with Celine. She feels like her personal agency has been taken away from her by being forced to have this job as a caretaker She feels like that has been stolen from her. Another thing that occurred to me reading through this book is, maybe Rose House is the one that has the agency here. Rose House makes decisions whether to let someone in or not. When the detectives come to investigate this, Rose House says, no, you can't come in. It has the ability to block that. And I won't reveal anything further as far as that goes with Rose House's sense of agency. But it's also got that feeling of liminal space, as I was saying, like Piranesi does. I've got that book up on my shelf somewhere. The house is kind of a labyrinth. It's shaped like a rose, it sounds like to me, and that's what the picture on the cover indicates. And I think you just kind of wind your way towards the center of the house. But there's a point where Celine comes out into this open area in the house, and there's a little room that has like a slice of a window, and the window has no glass on it, and the outside world is able to come in. And so to me that was like, and that to me also went to her, Celine's feeling of loss of agency. She has like this narrow view. She feels constricted in her life, just as she feels constricted when she's in this house. So the other theme in this book is AI, and some of the questions that we're already having to deal with AI, which are, what the AI is really able to sense. I mean, now we know that it runs on an algorithm, at least right now it all runs on an algorithm, but will it ever be able to experience human emotions like grief? And will we know if they do? That's the thing. They can, the AIs that we deal with, they're able of deceiving human beings, as we've seen with like the ChatGPT things, and people using them, having these chat conversation with these AIs. Sometimes people find themselves going down this rabbit hole with these, and it's been very disturbing, the things I've read about it. But I don't know, it was a really good book. I'm glad I read it. Anyway, that's my take on Rose House. And I promise you I haven't spoiled what happens in the book. Those are just my thoughts on some of the themes of it. So another book, now this kind of just fell off the shelf at me. It was really kind of a weird experience. I was going to my bookshelf to look at something that I was considering reading in July. And so I pulled that book out, and this book fell right there. And I was like, oh, well, The Lottery, I could read this. This is a short book, and I've been meaning to read it. So I got it up off the floor where it had fallen, and I sat down and started reading it. And the first line, it says, "The morning of June 27th was clear and sunny." Well, the day that I picked this up off the floor to read it was June 27th. Pretty weird. Pretty weird. It's a very short story. It's like 27 pages, I think. But everyone is gathering in the town square to participate in the annual lottery. And the whole town is gathered there. Some folks are running late, but everybody gets there pretty much. And I won't spoil it, but to me the book is about the perils of doing things the way we've always done them just because of tradition. Some traditions aren't worth keeping up. And that is, to me, the clear message of this book, that we have to be very careful and mindful of the traditions that we keep and the things of the past that we choose to bring forward into our lives. There's an old man in this book that he says, well, I've been doing the lottery, since I was born, and I'm 77 years old, and I've been in the lottery 77 times. We ought to keep doing the lottery. That was in response to some people in the crowd talking about, well, some towns have decided to do away with the lottery, and other people were saying, well, that's just the young folks, and why would we trust the young folks? They've got bad ideas. We need to keep doing things the way we've been doing them. So I think it's just very important for us to really examine the rituals in our lives, the practices that we keep up in our lives, and really examine why we do them, why we keep traditions alive, and if they are, if they serve a good purpose, if they bring joy to the world, if they bring peace to the world and to our lives, if they lift people up, then sure, that may be something we need to keep on doing. But if it's something for a nefarious purpose, or there is no purpose but people are harmed by it, maybe we should let those things go. So that was my take from the lottery. I read it once as a child, and I've read it now either 2 or 3 times as an adult. Don't remember. But this, I read it more deeply this time than I've ever read it. I really took my time with this and spent the whole month working on it. I may have mentioned in my May Reads video that I joined a book club called the Hardcore Literature Book Club, and it's by Ben McAvoy. And he's got a YouTube channel, and he's got a Patreon account, and I'll put a link to his YouTube so that you can, look into this and see if it's something you want to do. But I've really, really enjoyed the lectures that went along with this, and just really enjoyed taking my time with this book. One thing about Tolkien and this whole trilogy, if I'm remembering correctly, even The Hobbit, they all have lots of poems and lots of songs that they sing while they're on their quest, while they're on their journey, and they're all in these books. And so when I would get to one of those, rather than just kind of gloss over it, like, I don't really want to read this, and I sometimes in past readings I just skip them or read through them really quickly. But this time I took a different approach, and I would sit down with those poems, those songs, and I would make up a melody to go along with them, and I would sing it sometimes out loud, but mostly in my head, probably sing through the songs. And it was so much fun. And I've kind of thought about, getting my guitar out and going back through with some of these and creating an accompaniment for it. And, I don't think this is anything I'd ever perform for anybody except myself. It would be a personal thing, but I enjoyed it that much. And if I did something like that, I wouldn't be the first person, I'm sure. And in fact, I think Led Zeppelin actually did that, So, it wouldn't be without precedent for me to do that. But I just enjoyed it so much. And one of the points that Benjamin McAvoy made in his lectures was about quest literature, and you know, it kind of follows it follows a formula that you start with, usually it starts with a big feast and a spectacle of some sort, and that certainly happens at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring with Bilbo's birthday party, his 111st birthday party, and then there's also like a reluctance to go on the quest. And you have like a spiritual mentor, you have an advisor that helps you along the way. And there are other things about it. But, Benjamin made the point, he said, we're all kind of on our own quest these days. And so think about what your quest is and how it applies to this book. Well, I couldn't really think of anything. I thought, well, yeah, maybe in a way I'm on my own little quest here. But then yesterday something happened that made me realize that some part of my life is very much about to be on a quest. And that is, I was talking to my brother and sister, and we have decided to sell this house that I live in, and some other property that my grandmother left us. And I felt nervous about that, even though I agreed, okay, we'll do this. Because if one of us wants to sell, then we agreed that we would do that. So it's very much like Frodo selling Bag End to the Sackville Bagginses before he leaves to go on his quest, and his reluctance to leave, and how much he loved that house and loved being in the Shire. And I feel very much that way about my grandmother's house. But there's also an excitement to starting a new adventure. And I don't know, I just thought about that overnight, and I just feel like good books come into our lives for a reason. They come into our lives and give us messages sometimes that we need to hear. And this one was really, pretty much on the nose for me. But I don't know, I'll probably continue along with The Two Towers next, and then The Return of the King, and take my time throughout the rest of the year reading these other two books. But, it'll accompany me along my quest, I guess, as I sell this house and move on to a new house. But, like I said, not many books this month that I read, but the ones that I did read, I took my time with and got some really good messages from them. So we'll see what July has to offer for me. And I hope you all have had some good books to read lately. Sorry to wax so philosophical today, but sometimes books just move you to that point, and you want to talk about them. So anyway, hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and hope you are finding something good to read, as I said. And if you like my content, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon, I hope. Thank you. Bye.